All right, so this is the staffing and recruiting assignment from last week. Okay, this is the YouTube video and ask you the questions, and those are the answers. So I'm not going to go through that. All right, so you had to hire car salesmen. Okay, your business is growing too fast. You need to hire 5 car salesmen. So you have to come up with a staffing and recruiting plan and a hiring plan for how you're going to get these qualified workers. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is post a job description or come up with a job description. All right, so that website provided to you with the different parts of the job description, job title, duties, skills and competencies, relationships, salary. Okay, so if you read through that, it'll kind of give you an idea of what each section is. For a job title, basically you should just be listening about a car salesman. You can talk about, used and new cars, the kind of cars that you'll be selling, blah, blah, blah. We weren't really given too much information on that, so that's not really that big of a deal. All right, with duties. Okay, so your duties obviously going to be to show up to work at a timely fashion. Maybe work Saturdays. A lot of car salesmen do. You're going to have to obviously sell cars. You're going to have to be able to explain financing to people. You're going to have to be able to persuade people. Okay. Maybe you'll probably have to talk about maybe refinancing cars. Okay. You could have looked up the different job duties that a salesman has. All right. But basically, an idea of just how you're going to expect the employees to be able to talk about cars and talk about finance. Skills and competencies. So the skills, you're going to have to be able to drive a car. You're going to have to be able to do basic math. You're going to have to have good communication skills, things like that. Okay, your relationship. That kind of talks about the like who would be your superior, who you're going to have to talk to, things like that. So as a car salesman, you're going to have to talk to the financial advisors at the job. Okay, you might have like a sales manager that'll talk about numbers with you and who's going to be selling cars, like how many cars you're expected to sell, that kind of thing. Okay, so you're going to talk about those kind of relationships, and then a salary. You could have made up any salary really. If you did a little research, you find out that most salespeople make a lot of money off commission, so that would definitely be a part of it. All right, the plan and activities for recruitment. Where will you find these applicants? So obviously, posting online is probably the best way of going about it. There's a lot of different job search websites, Indeed.com, Monster.com, Career Builders, blah blah blah. That's probably where you're going to find the best people. You could put stuff in a newspaper. That's probably not as efficient anymore. Walking around the streets and trying to find people at ShopRite, crap like that, is probably not going to be ideal. All right, you're going to want to find people in a better spot. Maybe you go and talk to salespeople that are selling maybe phones or selling, I don't know, something like that, where it might be more difficult to sell than a car. Those people maybe you try to recruit, but the easiest thing is definitely online, and that's where a lot of people now look for jobs. Um, so discussion of how you will sort the applicants to determine who and how many will get an interview. So, depending on who you put in the interview, um, which will be the next question, that will determine how many people you want to interview. Ideally, if you're hiring 5 people, you probably want about 10 to 15 um, people that you're going to bring in and really interview after looking at their resumes and stuff like that. So some attributes you're going to want to see. You're probably going to want to see some kind of sales position in the past. Preferably, probably car salesman would be ideal. Maybe something that has to do with mechanics. Something about like knowing finance or knowing a car, or something like that would be ideal for a car salesman, because those are the two big parts we're selling, obviously. Um, so you're definitely going to want to see at least one of the three of those. Things you might want to stay away from are people that say they might not have good communication skills, they might not be good at math. People who maybe um, You might want to go with people with higher education levels because you're going to be asking them to do math and talk about things with them. You're probably going to want someone that has a driver's license, things like that. So that would be all in there. A plan, it's a lot of just common sense things that you would want to list for an applicant so that you can weed out people that aren't going to be good for your company. All right, so plan for the interview process. Who will be involved in the interview? I would recommend, a lot of different people do this. You're going to need a human resource person as part of the um, interview process at some point, just to talk about salaries and things like that at some point. Also, to have a human resource person in there, it's a good idea to steer away from like illegal questions, like we talked about, and things that can, that you're allowed to ask, you're not allowed to ask. You know, how old they are and things like that, where you're not allowed to ask them that. Obviously, you're going to have a manager or CEO, whoever's running that car dealership. And I always think that it's a good idea to have someone that has been working that position for a while as part of the interview process. They can ask questions of things that commonly come up, and like people who actually live the day to day of what this new person's going to be doing, they can ask these questions and see if they think that they would be good at it. So like a car salesman who's been there for, you know, 10, 15 years, you probably want them in on the interview process as well, just so that they can add input and ask them questions that, a manager who doesn't necessarily do the work anymore might not know about or not think about. So what would be your interview format? You probably want to sit down and ask them questions, and then maybe you have them pitch something to you, or um, you know, go out. So the first round is just a sit down interview. The second interview might be you have two customers come in and try to pitch that, try to have them go and sell them a car. Have them do like a demo of what they would do in the actual job. That's kind of up to you. Usually, there's at least two different phases of interviewing now. It's not just a one-time thing when you're hiring for these full-time positions. List of 7 interview questions. You could have went with any of the generic ones we talked about over the last couple of weeks. Um, you could obviously you would want to curtail the questions towards cars and financing and things like that. All different parts of the job. Ask them if they've ever sold cars before, or what have they sold before. What do you know about cars? What kind of car do you have? Things like that might be important to ask. Last thing, selection. How will you make your selection decision? So, are you going to gear it more towards if you have a demo of them having to sell the car? Is it is that going to weigh more than the interview process? Um, are you going to hire 5, or are you just going to hire the best? If someone declines, what are you going to do? Are you going to restart the interview process, or are you going to bring in somebody that didn't make the cut before? Because you still want good workers for you. So do you want your 8th, 9th, 10th best option now working for you, or do you want to just restart? That's kind of up to you. You get to decide on that. So that was it. If you have any questions about it, let me know.